Hey guys, thanks for joining me. I'm gonna do another Thomas Sowell video, listening to him, seeing what he says, seeing what others say, and thinking about it and talking about it. Let's check it out.
Would it be your feeling that if all the affirmative action programs were discontinued, women and minorities would go ahead much faster than they have under the affirmative action program?
Yes, it's not my opinion. The data indicate that, for example, Puerto Ricans had a higher percentage of the national average income before quotas than after. So did Mexican Americans. Blacks have about the same. So there's a marvelous putting of the burden on other people. You're saying here's this massive program that has existed now for a decade,
That's
and
not
you're
very
unable to show me
Things
the benefits that have come from all this enormous controversy.
Well, it certainly has been a revolution insofar as women's participation in the labor force
Not
and in the
really,
professions
not
that's
really.
concerned.
No, it hasn't. No,
I
it
know
hasn't.
that of my own knowledge.
No, you don't know it of your own knowledge because I've also looked at the same thing. And in the past, you found women overrepresented in many professional occupations, much more so than today, and you find that decline in those occupations much more highly correlated with a lower age of marriage for college women and with more childbearing. And as those two things, those two demographic factors have changed, women have also changed in their representation. So there's this whole myth that's been created that this is all a function of political developments of the past decade or so just will not stand up.
Thank you very much.
New York Times writer Nick.
It's an interesting take on that. It was kind of too short of a clip to really get a handle on the topic. But obviously, it was just a very short blip on affirmative action. And again, this was only 10 years into it being implemented. So, we're still dealing with the ramifications of that today. And I'm not sure how you guys feel about it, but I just don't think you can. I don't think you can fix the discriminations of the past by discriminating in the present. That's something that that's kind of where I am at this point. People will always be discriminated and have always been discriminated against. And in order to correct those things and rectify them, or make them as good as do with it as best you can, if you're going to raise another group up, that means you're inherently stagnating another. So, you're just doing the same thing. You're just continuing the cycle. Everyone just level out the playing field, make it so all the rules are the same, then you start the game over, right? You're not gonna say this group was cheating, so we're gonna give this other group 10 extra points. It's just never gonna end. It's just never gonna end, because then what's the scale as to when it's over? So, however many years from now, that group is still gonna be getting the higher points, and then this other group, maybe they've tanked and they're struggling. There's always going to be winners. There's always going to be losers. There's always going to be people that had a benefit just by sheer luck. That's just the way it goes. You shouldn't put your thumb on the scale and try to promote people, especially just for being part of a particular group. I have no problem with promoting people in terms of merit. If somebody is exceptional, then sure, they can get a better job, or they can do X, or they can do Y, or they can get the scholarship. But just purely for factors that they have no control over, I was never a big fan of that. Let's see what this next topic is.
Nicholas Kristof, I'm quoting you, asserts that there is you're quoting him, overwhelming evidence that centuries of racial subjugation still shape inequity in the 21st century, quote, closing quote, and he mentions, open quote, the lingering effects of slavery, close quote. And now this is Tom Sowell. If we wanted to be serious about evidence, we might compare where blacks stood 100 years after the end of slavery with where they stood after 30 years of the liberal welfare state.
Yes.
Explain that.
Well, in 1960, which would be almost 100 years after the end of slavery,
Right.
22% of black kids grew up in homes with only one parent.
Just 22%.
Yes.
4 out of 5 were in homes with both parents.
Yes. 30 years later, after the liberal welfare state, that number had more than tripled. And so I say, well, let us compare, if we can speculate on how much that 22% was due to the legacy of slavery. But we know that that tripling was not due to the legacy of slavery. It was due to the legacy of a whole different set of policies. And you can look at it so many other ways. Education. Stuyvesant High School in New York, as you know, you get into only by passing a very tough exam. In 2012, the percentage of black students who had gotten into Stuyvesant High School was less than 1/10 of the percentage of black students who had gotten into Stuyvesant High School 33 years earlier.
I didn't know that.
There's Dunbar High School in Washington, which was an elite black high school for a very long time. In 1993, the number of kids out of Dunbar High School who went on to college was less than it was 60 years earlier, which would have been in the depth of the Great Depression. And so you can run through a whole bunch of other things like that. Look at the housing projects. The housing projects in the first half of the 20th century, during that first 100 years after slavery, did not have the high crime rates, the murder rates, the graffiti, all the rest of it. We associate. None of that was there. People, like the New York Times, Christoph should read his own old papers, pointed out that on Saturday mornings it was common in the housing project of this earlier era for parents to leave their doors unlocked because some of the parents could afford television, some couldn't. So the ones who had television would leave their doors unlocked, and the kids from the other families could come down there and watch television with them. Well, now the latest figures show that most people below the poverty line have 2 television sets and cable, but they wouldn't dare leave their doors unlocked in a public housing project.
That is, I mean, fascinating. The idea that it's a society has changed, right? And the question is why, and the question is, what does that change look like? He's alluding here that the change is not. It's not that it's racist. It's that, there's I guess kind of like a social engineering that's been going on with regard to, whether it's welfare or programs that their intention initially, some may argue even this point, but their intention initially was to help, right? Was to help people. And in doing so, you create a dependent group of people. And this is not tied to any particular race. You have the poor whites from Appalachia, and you have inner city ghettos with poor people. But you've created I still remember when individuals were ashamed to take the handout, and that's a cultural thing, right? The shame that comes from not being able to do it yourself, that's completely been obliterated in our culture of today, our society of today. It's looked upon as you're pretty much stupid if you don't accept the handout and don't take whatever you can get, take it all and try to take more. And if you don't, then you're just dumb. You're just looked upon as an idiot. And I think that crosses all ethnic and racial groups. For the most part, it's pretty sad. And I don't know what to do to fix that. You just have to try to instill in, your friends and family, you know, the difference between that and, working for yourself, doing what you have to do. And it's not always going to be the easiest route, but, just a sense of pride in oneself and self-worth. It's a tough road, but yeah, well, there it is. Well, guys, thanks for coming along. Like, share, subscribe. I'll start reading the comments and stuff like that. So try to give me a comment. Let me know what more you want to see. What else I can do. And that's it. Thanks a lot.